conflicted with that disease as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of us.
It's already rolling.
Sorry, I'll ask.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats. So just a side note, Scott and Susie have copies of the film, copies of Susie's solo records, Scott's solo records, the record they just did together, which may have...
Our police record.
Yeah. It may have the greatest album title of all time, which is it Our Album Doesn't Like You Either? Yes. Yeah, which, it's everything. So, let's open up a short discussion about the film. You know, it's always good once you watch a movie, you want to have a glass of wine or a glass of bourbon and have a chat about it. Let's open it up. Anyone have a question, comment, something the film made you feel? We have the filmmaker right next to you. What would you like to know?
Inspiring.
Thank you. What did it inspire? What does it inspire?
I love music. I follow Bryan around.
Yeah. Maybe you just left Bryan.
Well, we all love Bryan.
Yeah.
But it was really inspiring. I not a musician really, but I love musicians and I love music. So.
Did it make you understand sort of how the songs that you like get made? And
It
the
also
struggle
made
that
me realize
happens?
how hard it is.
Right.
I'll show you.
Emotionally hard.
Emotionally,
with the business. I was very inspired by all the different voices, all the different genres that were the people that you brought into the story.
Yeah, because there's no musical thread to any of them. They're kind of just the people I had access to, and I didn't want anyone in there that I didn't like, wasn't a fan of. So because I wasn't a film or something. Steve Forbert for me was like, he's my favorite of all of them, and he was the toughest interview. He's just really tough. But I like that. But yeah, they're like Lisa Loeb and Steve Forbert in the same film. It's just odd.
Were those the two big gets for you? Like, you know, I mean, I know you know, those are the people you had access to, but, you know, I know in my career as a journalist, whenever you get a big interview, you get really excited about it, and you get sort of insecure about the questions you're going to ask them.
Yeah, I was really underprepared for the Steve Forbert interview, and I was just nervous. You know, and I think it's like, you get, you know, and I'm sure you guys are the same way, like you get, like sometimes you're a fan of somebody that may not even be as popular as another person. Like, no offense to Mumford and Sons, but I wouldn't even be remotely nervous of meeting any of those guys. I'd be like, fill it up unleaded. You know, I wouldn't even know. I mean, they're great and all that, but I don't, you know, I don't have that feeling with them. But with Steve Forbert, the first thing I told him was like, you know, every night I went to sleep with your voice, you know, and it was, there were 3 musicians in the world. It was, you know, me, you, and the Beatles. I mean, that's what I felt like when I was 14 years old. I mean, I had my ideas of what I wanted to do. I loved the Beatles, and I loved Steve Forbert. And he just looked at me like, what's the matter with you? He really did. He looked at me like, what is the matter with you? But that's the way I felt. And so I started off by just telling him how much of a fan I was. But that was great to interview him.
I remember when we worked together, you told me a story about, you know, touring around the country with Robert Plant and Alison Krauss, and
oh, I'll tell that to anyone who will listen.
yeah, exactly. But you told me, you know, when we worked together, we were sort of, while they were bouncing down audio, and you said, you know, Robert Plant, when people meet him, he realizes that people are freaking out that they're meeting Robert Plant, and it's going to be a moment they're going to remember for the rest of their life. And you were sort of very taken with his composure in that moment. And I always thought about that, like, I don't think I could have that composure if I'm having a bad day, and never got to that level.
Yeah, like the composure that he had.
Right.
He just was always a rock star anytime I ran into him. And he knew, like, it was really freaky because every time I would round the corner backstage in these arenas, I'd just see that big mane of hair. I'd be like, holy shit, it's Robert Plant again. You know, it was like alarming, like my heart I couldn't take it, but he would lovingly say to you, please refer to me as Golden God at all times. He would mess with you all the time. And, yeah.
That was probably his email address.
Yeah, I know. I think, you know, I mean, like, how do you, like, exist knowing you're just, like, rock royalty like that? So he I think, you know, he's very tongue-in-cheek about it.
Any other questions? The gentleman in the back. That's you.
How does Ed Rollins get in? To me, that's pretty big get.
Oh, yeah. Okay, the first time I ever toured, officially was with my band Wanderlust. And we toured as the opening act for Collective Soul. So, and I hadn't seen Ed since the last night of our tour, which may or may not have something to do with the fact that I got really, really drunk that night. It was in '96. When I say drunk, I mean really drunk because I was an idiot. And I heard that you're supposed to do something crazy on the last night of the tour. What I realized is the headline band is supposed to mess with the opening band, not the other way around. So I got so wasted that I, in the middle of a Collective Souls show, went on stage with the deli platter from backstage and just put it on the stage and ran off. It was like so random. So I had never spoken to Ed since then, and I figured I was just blacklisted.
Did he remember that?
No, he probably was as drunk as I was that night. Yeah, it wasn't like the Pope; it was Collective Soul.
Right.
But anyway, so we reunited that night when I interviewed Ed for 10 years later or whatever, and it was awesome. It was really cool to have a conversation with him like that, and he went through some crazy shit. When we were like touring with them, I mean, they went through some shit. I mean, he had a girlfriend at the time, and they got married, and that ended since then. And he really went through, like, I guess everything. I don't think he went through a lot of struggle as a songwriter. I mean, a little bit, but he wrote and recorded "Heaven Let Your Light Shine Down" at home. I think he talks about it in the movie, and he did well with the music fast. But I think maybe because of that, his life stuff, all the other stuff suffered, and I think he went through some tough times since I had last seen him. And he's doing well now, but I kind of like quit being in the band Wanderlust not too long after we toured with them and all that stuff. Things just sort of fell apart at that point. But he didn't. He just kept on going and going. That's the only way you can maintain a career. Is, it's like saying the way you stay married is by not getting divorced. And the way you can maintain a career is like don't quit the band. Just go. I couldn't take the insanity, but he lived to tell the tale.
One final question, then we'll go to the music, my dear.
Can you expand on what happens to the song once an artist wants to record it? Do you retain any creative control over it, how it's produced, and the music behind it, and that kind of aspect of it?
Yeah, that's a good question, and one thing I hear a phrase a lot like about selling a song. So you never sell a song ever. Nobody buys songs, but you write a song and then you pitch it, or you have somebody pitch it, or they pitching it means just getting it to their ears. That's the toughest part of the whole thing. So if they record your song, they can do anything they want with it. They can record it any way they want to do it. It's their, as long as you're making your song available, they can do it any way they want. You hope that they do it the way you envision it, but you have no control over that. And they don't own your song unless you sign some weird thing that says they do. So the example I always go to is Dolly Parton in 1970 whatever 71 wrote "I'll Always Love You," and they got into a movie shortly after that, and then 30 years later, whatever, Whitney Houston did it, and it becomes a worldwide hit. Dolly Parton still owns that song, and she owns every word and every note of that song.
She's making money off that song.
Yeah.
When Whitney's making money.
And it's kind of interesting that, Dolly Parton's a star too, but it is kind of interesting where the songwriter usually doesn't, their life isn't as chaotic as the performers is, so you kind of see that. Again, Dolly Parton's a performer too, but not on the level of Whitney Houston and Britney's schedule. You see how the performer's life can eat you up and spit you out and leave you for dead. As Dolly Parton, a songwriter's life could be a lot more sane. But anyway, that's how that works.
Explain to them how the money works.
What's that? Oh, and the way the money works is when the song. So when Whitney, let's go back to when Whitney was alive. So that song, I'll Always Love You, would be played on the radio. Every time it's played on the radio, or any time it's movie The Bodyguard is on television or cable or whatever, anytime that song comes out of a speaker in any way, shape, or form, including live, the songwriter gets the money, all the money, any income. So like when there's commercials on a television station and they show The Bodyguard, the money from the commercials that go to the station, some of that goes to the songwriter. The singer of that song, Whitney Houston, made money from touring and album sales, but that is a lot less than songwriting. It's the songwriter that makes by far the bulk of the money. So with the song that I wrote with John Rich and Vicki, that Like We Never Loved It All, that Faith Hill and Tim McGraw did, I was really psyched because of everything about that experience, but especially they heard my demo of it, and they copied a lot of the stuff I played on it. So it was really cool to hear, like, even like the drum parts and stuff, the way I did the demo. Sometimes, I remember when I was at Warner Chappell writing songs for them, some of the artists or the songwriters were bummed out about something that has been a problem, which is sometimes they miss the boat on your song. Like, you know, they say, oh, I love this song, and then they record it and change it all around, and it wasn't quite what you had in mind, and then they release it doesn't do really well. You're like, because you screwed the song up. I handed you this thing on a platter. So they started to put into contracts, you know, some people have in the contracts that the songwriter, you know, has to be a part of the production in some way, shape, or form. They always do that in like rap and R&B and all that stuff. That's like a whole different world, completely different world. Nobody's just the songwriter, just a producer. They're a songwriter and a producer in that world. But in the archaic rock and roll world, it's still just like, this is the songwriter, and then you get out of the building, and now we're going to produce it. But if it means, you know, making it as good. I had a song, I mean, this is like so typical of the ridiculousness, but I had in my bio, you know, some people repeat it, you know, he's written songs for Jennifer Love Hewitt, which I'm always like, who cares? You know, did she ever have a hit? I don't know.
She had a song.
Did she?
I think.
I mean, it was cool. Jennifer Love Hewitt, everybody knows that name for some reason. So I was like, but at the time, so the publisher guy at Warner Chappell called and said, you know, I'm producing Jennifer Love Hewitt for the album, and we'd love to use your song. And I was like, awesome, great. So they took my song, and then they called like a week later, and they're like, we really, really love it, but we want to just change it. Would you mind maybe doing a different version of the thing if you could do that? I was like, cool. A week after that, oh, we really like it, but now the verse seems and then I changed the thing completely around, and they changed a couple parts. So, long story short, they released the song. They gave me 25% of my own song because the producer and Jennifer Love Hewitt and the girl that sang "I Love It," rewrote the other 75%. So I got 25% of a song that went nowhere. Woo!
And that, folks, is why not everyone wants to be a songwriter.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
anyway, we should probably get to the musical part of the evening.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your thoughtful questions. Thank you for digging the movie. Let's hear some music. Scott Sachs, Susie Brown, their album. I'm going to play Letterman for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Their album is called Our Album Doesn't Like You Either. It's available right over there on the bookshelf.
And now, if my life was an album, the hit would be my wife. Susie, come on up.